Stop trying to blame church hurt or church people. Brenda, this is her response after I had it explained to her that I didn't leave Christianity because of church hurt or the people of Christianity. That if you were to put me in an isolated island by myself from a young age, because I started questioning this book when I was 9 years old, that I still would have walked away from this religion. That if you put me on a desert island by myself with this book, I still wouldn't believe this book. I still wouldn't believe that that was God, and I would still find so many immoralities within this book. Her response to me intrigued me. She said, I guess it's hard for me to understand. The book is a living words. The highly intellectual have a hard time understanding that. Thank you for the compliment. As you see dead words, the Holy Spirit brings them alive. Brenda, I know you're on my Facebook page, but I hope you do see this video, because I don't know if you follow the page or not. But what I want you to understand is that within your writing, you just basically said that if you don't critically think about what's written in the book, then that is the Holy Spirit working in you. That the Holy Spirit inhibits your ability to critically think about this writing. Now, I would find flaw in that, because your book says, in all that getting, get knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. It's in the Old Testament. It's in Psalms, I believe, and in Psalms and Proverbs. I think it's in Proverbs where it tells you that. In all that getting, get knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Well, knowledge is the gathering of facts. Understanding is bringing those facts into a coherent thought, thinking about those facts. Wisdom is putting those facts into practice and seeing what kind of results you can get. Now, you said that these are living words when you're going through this with the Holy Spirit. So let's look at some of that. The knowledge is that this book says that if a young girl is sexually assaulted by a man and she's not betrothed, all he has to do is pay the father 50 pieces of silver. And that's if he's caught. Pay the father 50 pieces of silver, and the young girl then has to marry her assailant and provide children from him. He can never divorce her. If he were to take on multiple wives, he still has to take care of her like the first wife. Facts. That's what that book says. Look at the facts and the understanding of what that is. Dude takes advantage of a woman, she now has to marry him. What are the facts, the understanding of that? That every night this young lady has to deal with the person who sexually assaulted her. She has to provide food and clothing and water and care and live in the household of this person who took advantage of her. She has to provide babies, hopefully sons, to this man who took advantage of her. And no matter how many wives he takes on, she still has to be there, and he cannot divorce her. The man that took advantage of her. What do you think the trauma that this young girl has experienced over her life? How much resentment would this man carry about this woman? Because it says if he is caught, meaning he was not trying to be with this young lady. This is not a situation where they were dating and then they got caught having sex. No, it talks about him taking advantage of her, and he is caught, literally red-handed. How much damage would that do to our society today if we forced the young ladies who have been taken advantage of to marry their assailant? Where's the wisdom in that? The wisdom is that this is an improper way to utilize our justice system. That a man who is caught taking advantage of a woman like that should be put up under the jail, penis cut off, and never to see the light of day again. That way our society will be free from a person who would ever attack another woman. This book, Facts, says that of foreigners and the foreigners among you, you can take as slaves and pass them down for generation to generation, that they are to be moved as property. And if you beat them, and they live for 2 days, then you, the master, is not punished. But if they die within that 2 days, then the master is punished. And they can die on the 3rd day, 4th day, 5th day, the master's not punished. Those are the facts. Those facts were actually put into practice in more recent times. In our most recent history, in American history and world history, we see the transatlantic and the trans-Saharan slave trade, just to name one slave trade. We saw the brutalization of a people forced to live outside of their norm because they were foreigners, brought into a foreign land. Some who weren't foreigners, they were foreigners who came over and took the land. And some of those were made into slaves. So what did we see? We saw the breakdowns of their families. We saw a system put in place to continue to oppress them. We saw the Native American population decimated and pushed out of their lands, Trail of Tears, just to name one. We saw wars after wars. And finally, a civil war had to be fought over the economics of it all. And those people were freed. But then those people had to go through, 100 years of Jim Crow laws. And then after the Jim Crow laws, then continued oppression through redlining and job placement, burning down of towns, water flooding of towns. We've seen a continuation of that type of mentality, but every generation tries to see it a little bit better, a little bit easier. We saw the wisdom that portion of the Bible is actually incorrect, not a basic instructions of living before you die. Well, how we go? It's not. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's not living. Them words are dead. How are those words alive when they tell you to go and genocide an entire town? Tell you to kill everybody in the town except for the young ladies who've not known a man and take them as your wives. How is this a living words? How is it living words? How is it living words when it tells you that no matter what government is put in place, that government was put in place because your God has deemed that government to be in place. So whether you are a Trump supporter or a Biden supporter, you are to pray for that leader. You are supposed to know that God put that leader in place. But how many times have we revolted against leadership? The American Revolutionary War should have never happened because God put King, who was it? It wasn't James. Who was the damn king? I forgot who the damn king was. King George. King George in place to lead the colonies. India should have never revolted. The African countries should have never gained their independence. France should have never had the French Revolution. Rome should still be in power because God put them in place. But God also brought the people to revolt against them. That's what people will probably say. But whoever wins this election next year, God put them in place. That's what you're supposed to believe. These are living words, right? No, these words are dead. These words are dead. These are the words of people who existed 2,000 plus years ago and how they viewed the world and how they viewed society and what they thought was proper based on the culture that they was already living in. These are not words that are still living today. You're a woman. Does your man still lay in the bed with you when you're on your cycle? Because those living words says that he shouldn't, because the bed now becomes unclean and you're unclean. This book also say polygamy is good. So should you allow for polygamy in your life? I don't have a problem with it. But do you have a problem with it? If you do have a problem with it, then those words are dead to you and they're not living. Women, be silent in the churches, for I suffer you not to speak, nor as usurp the authority of a man. Are those living words in this day and age? So you might want to check that. You might want to check that. But always remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.